Just Jenny. That's all. Right here on SiriusXM Stars.
Jennifer Beals is with me, and you are an actor, you're a producer, you're an author, you're a mom, you are one of the most interesting actors I think I've met in all the time I've been on the air, like the past 14 years. When I first interviewed you, and I think it was for Taken, I was amazed by just how thoughtful you are, how specific you are in terms of projects you're willing to do or not willing to do, and how real you are. So welcome back to my show.
Thank you. It's a very lovely thing to say. Thank you.
And congratulations on the revival of the L Word, the Q generation. I think it's really so exciting that the show is back. The first incarnation of it, I think, was extremely important because there was never a show about lesbians. There was never a show that focused on women who were gay.
Right.
Always conversations and shows and movies, who knows what, about gay men. But for some reason, lesbians were like left out. And now, 10 years later, it seems almost like even more right that it's back because, I mean, there's a war on women, there's a war on LGBTQ people, there's a war on essentially anybody who's not white, straight, and male. It's a remarkable time.
And I think also there's a whole generation that's redefining how we talk about gender identity, how we talk about sexual orientation, how, you know, they've completely expanded the lexicon to the point where there isn't enough language to express their experience. There isn't enough precise language to express their experience. We're, you know, at a point in time where we are rethinking pronouns. Like that's when you know there's this huge paradigm shift. And that to me is really exciting because it also is saying to me that we are then having a larger conversation about authenticity. And one of the great things about this new iteration of the show is that in some ways it's more Rebel Yell than it is Reboot, and it's more inclusive and it's more diverse.
I think you're right about this paradigm shift. I know for young people, I have two kids in college, and both of their schools, their pronouns were asked. And that's just how it goes. It's a different world, thankfully, because I think for anybody.
Yes. Isn't that exciting? Like, to me,
it
that's
is exciting.
It's so exciting that that language is, you know, this repository for qualifying, quantifying, expressing is not at this moment in time sufficient to contain experience. It's really exciting to me.
And it's exciting that young people seem to have sort of the right perspective on just let everybody be. It's like it's strange how and weird that it was like normal the way all of us were sort of raised, that there's a box you had to be in and sort of check off whether it's gender or anything else.
Yes, exactly. They just blew it apart. And and I think the next thing that has to be, well, there's so many things, but, you know, thinking about our relationship to the earth and changing those paradigms of how we function, because the earth can't take it anymore. And it's going to shift to the point where we will not be able to inhabit the earth unless we have a similar kind of paradigm shift, which, you know, then is possible if this generation is doing it within this context. Perhaps that can be expanded to a different context, and we can somehow start to rethink our relationship to the earth, which I think will necessitate having to rethink even the idea of hierarchy. You know, like, how do you get out of the mindset of hierarchy? I know that's one of those. I've spent my life fighting the concept of hierarchy because I just think it's stupid. It just, when you think about it, I mean, that anybody should have to, in a way, kowtow to anybody else because of a different level of experience or expertise, or we should all be treated in the same way. It's it's a very odd dynamic. That and
by
the same token, the you know, those who are younger, you know, to understand the experience of an elder, but not necessarily accept it hook, line, and sinker, but take what's works and leave what doesn't work.
Yes. But respect is always nice. Yes.
Yeah. But this is what I mean. This conversation is so it's interesting. It's really interesting.
How
necessary.
I agree. How did you sort of keep your wits about yourself and keep yourself as you are and sort of true to your core when you were in Flashdance and the world went bananas, and then it was like that was all that was it, like you were that character and that's it. And by the way, you're so you, right? It's so not like you're so not Flashdance. You're so everything else. I mean, that was part of your history, obviously. But how did you keep yourself grounded and sane? And how did you listen to that voice inside you that knew you wanted to take the path you were going to take and not sort of the roles that anyone else was going to determine was right for you?
Well, I think, certainly I was in college at the time, so I just focused on what pleased me, which was at that point studying. So I love that, because I feel like today so many people get caught up in whatever is that moment of a big blitz that they might have, and then they let go of what's true to who they are. But you had this strength, this like understanding of what mattered. Well, I think because I've always been more interested in what is not me than in me. Yeah. Interesting. I don't know. That's my theory. No, I was looking at your Instagram, and I was looking at the people you follow, and you follow artists and people that you think are, I guess, just very interesting. It's not sort of the same follow list that I'll see on a lot of accounts. So what does pique your interest? How does that, how does that work? As far as Instagram goes, I really like things of visual interest. And I love photography, so I follow a lot of photographers, and I want something to visually stimulate me, I guess. Yeah. Well, maybe that's part of the success too that you've had in this business, because as incredible an actor as you are, I mean, you're truly super talented. I think that's a given. You're not caught up. You're just not caught up in all of the ish. Because we're all going to die. I know, it's so true. And it's really every day I'm like, please don't let it happen today. Yeah. But but it's pretty remarkable. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, because I really do believe that it's the most important part of the work is to be helpful somehow. It's not about aggrandizing the self somehow. It's about, focusing on other people. Let's aggrandize the self for a minute. You had said that Margot in The Last Tycoon was your favorite character to play. Yeah. I want to know why. I had read this in an interview, and then the interviewer didn't ask you why. And I read it, and I'm like, but she just said her favorite character that she played was Margot from The Last Tycoon. How did you not ask why? There were so many levels to Margot. She presents as someone who is supremely selfish and self-absorbed, and there's just a series of masks that keep coming off throughout the show. And I love that she and her mother had a mission together. Yeah. And that without her mother, how does she do that? How does she go forward with that? And having the person who you once thought was going to be your objectifier be your greatest champion. It just, everything just shifted so beautifully in the writing, and and Billy Ray and Chris Kaiser just gave me an extraordinary character to play. And it's not as if she's in a lot of the show. Right. But the episodes that I had, I just cherished, and I cherished working with Matt Bomer and Kelsey Grammer. Yeah. And that whole crew was just amazing. And Bet, of course, you have to love her. You wouldn't have brought her back. Well, there is no Margot Taft without Bet Porter. Right. Right. I think that's the truth. How has aging impacted Bet? Because we are now 10 years later, and can't stop time. No. That'd be silly. So talk about that a bit. Bet Porter is a very controlling person. And the notion that she can't control her body, you know, that all of a sudden her body is aging and doing things, getting hot at the most inappropriate times is, I think, daunting. You know, I think it's daunting.
I love that it's a part of this, because as a 49-year-old, and with my listeners who are all somewhere between 35 and 70, we don't talk about it enough.
No, that's why I wanted to be part of the character. And nobody believed me that you know, that I really wanted that. And then I just started playing it.
That's great. So what did they do when you started, when they didn't really believe that you were sincere, and then there you are having a hot flash?
I think the writers believed that I was sincere, but it's a very young room, and I think when you're younger, people think, "Oh, that'll never happen to me." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That'll never happen to me. Yeah. And so I would send them ridiculous amounts of articles about exactly what happens during menopause, and so that they could write to it. And they had so, you know, to their credit, they had so many things that they were tackling. So I just started playing it, and then they started writing it, and you know, our executive at Showtime said, "Oh, I don't think Jennifer's going to want to play this," and they're like, "Well, actually, Jennifer suggested it." Yeah, but for that very reason, that we don't hear about it enough, we don't talk about it enough, and I wanted, you know, people who, you know, felt like Bet was their friend, and people who identified with her, to see her go through that, because, you know, it's coming.
Oh yeah, no, it is. It's one of my favorite conversations to have on the air, because I think that everybody goes through it in one way or another, every woman, and we each have varying degrees of symptoms or different varying degrees of perimenopause, and which is where I am at 49. And I mean, I'll be 50. Let's be real. I'll be 50 in like 8 weeks. And,
no, but you're still 49. Don't.
I'm working through it. I know.
You hold on to it until you
hold
move
on
over.
To it until that's right. Until you cross over the 50 bridge. Yeah, how is it, by the way?
It's okay? It's good. It's really good.
But the crazy that you can feel from this, and like you're talking about Bet's character being so controlled when you're a person who, I've always been sober, not because of addiction, just because I never liked alcohol and drugs, because I'm a control freak. And food was always sort of my thing. But as a grown up, I've been able to sort of navigate that road, and until now. And now everything is just, I don't know what's going to be each day to the next. And my husband has to go deal with it. And he will say to me now, like, "Honey, I wanted to ask you to pick up something on the way home from work, but like, I know you're perimenopausal, so should I not ask?"
It's so funny.
I know.
It's really funny.
So I think it's so important that Bet is...
Yes, and what I was really interested in too, and I don't think that we really got into it this season, but I want to get into it hopefully next season, is how it affects, you know, we know that Bet Porter is prone to rage. Like she goes from 0 to 60 like a Tesla in 3 seconds.
Yeah. There you go.
And I wanted to see how the menopause affected that. Like if it aggravated it. I wanted it to be an aggravation, like a stone in the shoe or something. But we'll get to it. We have it in some smaller moments, but not really.
And she's running for mayor.
Yes, she is. She's running for mayor of Los Angeles because some pretty horrible things have happened to her in the last couple of years, and there's a few wrongs that she wants to right in on a larger scale. Yeah.
And I know that there's several of the original cast in the show, and then of course there are new actors, trans actors playing trans characters, which is just so great. It's
and trans actors playing cis characters.
Love that.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's as it should be. But it's amazing. I look at like Kat Dennig, is that how I pronounce her last name? And her career that she's had since the L Word. And it's so fun because it's almost like she's coming home. Yeah.
Yeah. Kate Menig you're talking about? Or?
Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Kate Menig, yeah. You know, well, for all of us, it's like a homecoming.
Yeah.
You know, Kate, Leisha, Haley, and I are all very good friends, and it feels like family. Yeah. And so we get to go play, and we get to be with our family, and we get to tell these exciting stories, and we just were pinching ourselves the first day on set together.
Right, because I bet now it's sort of like you've all lived life. It's coming back with a whole new set of life experiences.
Yes, yes. And what's interesting, I think, for the audience is that you get to see, you know how when you haven't seen friends for a while and you see them and it's so great to see them again and you see the things that have stayed the same and you see how they've changed maybe a little bit, but they're like your family. It's really great. And in Bet's case, certain things have changed for sure. But her flaws, there's a lot of the flaws have stayed the same. She's like a hamster on the wheel. She's just, Bet, get off the wheel.
Yeah, you know what? That's so very usual for people. This, it's
repeating
hard
the same mistake.
Yes, it's something, and then you watch yourself do it and say, why, and why, and
yeah.
But
or can somebody perform an intervention? That would be
right. But isn't that what makes her so darn relatable? Yeah,
and I think it makes her interesting to play. She was just this perfect crusader. I don't think it'd be interesting.
By the way, the L Word is back this Sunday, December 8th at 10 p.m. on Showtime. And I love Showtime. My brother co-created Billions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Congrats. That's a great show.
Well, yeah, it's really, thank you. What do you watch on TV?
I was obsessed with Succession.
Yeah, well,
obsessed. Yeah. Like it was my treat. I'd go home, I'd do my homework, and then I'd give myself an episode of Succession.
Yes. What do you think it is? Because the characters are so reprehensible, and so you look for a bit of redeeming something.
And they do. They give it to you sometimes because they're all trying to please their dad. Mm-hmm. They're all trying to be something, mm-hmm. and you just want them to break away from the father and be, again, back to the conversation about authenticity, to go be who they are.
Right.
But yet who they are is so wrapped up in who he is and who this brand is.
Yes.
And the actors are so extraordinary. Good. And the writing is so extraordinary. And the camera is so extraordinary that I just think it's just an amazing show.
That ending of this season.
Both. The ending of the first season was amazing.
Yes.
The second, I just can't wait. I can't wait for it to come back.
It's really, really fun. I agree. It's one of the best shows. And now I think that's what's going to happen with the L Word.
Oh, thank you.
Generation Q. I do. I think that this new generation that's going to get to see it is going to be obsessed.
I hope so.
No,
I hope they get a lot from it.
Oh, and tell me about the book that you created.
Oh, well, when I go hiking or swimming, sometimes ideas come to me, and so I had this idea, and it's set 5 minutes into the future, and I was thinking about online how there are like revenge threads, and it's so punitive against people, and it sometimes I think gets quite out of hand, and so I was imagining a world where it had gotten so out of hand that it had been taken over by the government, and they had an algorithm by which they meted out punishment, like for even smaller infractions, and that the society would be able to act on those infractions and the punishment. And a young girl makes a mistake. She just makes an offhanded comment online, trying to please the mean girls at school.
Well, of course.
And all of a sudden, the hive comes after her. And so I was talking to my friend Tom Jacobson, who's also a producer, and he said, "Oh, let's work on that together." And we started going through all the different ideas that are embedded in that one little idea, and extrapolating on her experience and who she is and who her mother is. And we thought, this is getting, more complicated and interesting, and let's turn it into a book first.
Yeah.
And so we wrote a treatment, and we sold it to a publisher, and then asked Barry Lyga and Morgan Baden to write the novel, which they did. And it's mostly a young adult book, and so that came out in the fall, and we've been approached by a company to turn it into a television series, which would be fun. But it's available, to purchase now in stores.
Yeah, The Hive, and people say it's great. I mean,
it's really Morgan and Barry did a fantastic job.
And you just keep doing. It's really cool.
Thanks. Well, actually, talking about Margot Taft, I missed her so much.
Yeah.
I missed her so much. And I was talking to a friend of mine, Robin Lee, who's a wonderful author and actress. And I was explaining who Margot was a little bit. And she said, oh, that sounds like my friend Taylor's character, Evelyn Hugo, in her book, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And I said, has it come out yet? And I said, because I'd really love to read it, just to visit with someone who's like Margot in a way. And she goes, it hasn't come out yet, but I can maybe get you a copy. And so I read it and I fell in love with it. And then I sat down with Taylor, and then she and I decided to work together to try to, bring it to the screen somehow. And I called Eileen, and Eileen came on board. And so we're executive producing the project for Freeform.
See, how do you find time to do everything? You just do it.
You just do it. You follow your excitement. You follow your passion, I think.
Yeah. Big believer in that. And how do you stay looking as good as you do? I mean, it's shallow, but it's like not really shallow, because as we age, it's hard.
I have a really great hair and makeup team.
Of course, sure.
That's
as
just the bottom line.
Fair.
And
you take good care of yourself.
And I don't abuse my body.
Yeah.
It's not to say that I don't ever drink, but I don't smoke, and I maybe have 5 glasses of wine a year, tops probably.
Do you stay away from sugar?
Yeah. Sugar's not my friend, for sure.
Yeah.
Though I love it. Though sometimes I do treat myself with the chocolate chip cookies and dark chocolate.
I'm obsessed with these right now. They're called Smart Sweets.
Oh, yes. We love those in my house.
I know. But do you think they're really less bad for you?
I haven't investigated. I don't dare. There's some things I just go, I like this. I'm going to have some.
No, that's the thing. I'm like, this looks good. It says it has fiber and it's low sugar. I'm going to eat it.
Yeah. And I told my friend, as Jen Marsala, who is an actress who was on Taken, who's a friend of mine, we always joke about, carbs and gluten, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And I said, okay, as my treat, when I'm finished with the press tour for the L Word, I'm going to just have a grilled cheese sandwich followed by cheesecake.
Correct.
That's what I'm going to have.
By the way, I'm right. I'll come. Let me just come with you. I don't need the L Word. I just want the grilled cheese. No, but that is one of the things about the job. It's like, as shallow as it might seem, part of your job is you have to look a certain way, and Bette has to look a certain way.
But you know what? It's like being an athlete. That's what I consider it. Is you take care of yourself, because you as cliche as it is, your body is your instrument. So in the same way, a track athlete wouldn't do certain things because they need their body to cross that finish line in a certain manner. And so I try to take care of myself in that way.
So I want to mention that you were talking before about how much you care about our environment, which obviously matters, and people don't care about it enough. But the C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group recently named you a C40 Goodwill Ambassador.
Yes.
So that's really, it's really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's nice that you give back and you care.
Well, trying to, it's to me, I think it's really important that younger generations are educated appropriately as to what's happening, and that people have enough information, and you get the information out there, because it's just so simple. It's really as simple as we need to follow the science. We need to follow the science and change our actions accordingly.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to be perfect, but there has to be a paradigm shift in how we think about the systems that are in place.
Yeah. You are remarkable. Please check out the L Word, the Q Generation, or Generation Q, I should say, on Showtime Sunday night, 10 p.m. And it starts this weekend. So very exciting stuff.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for being on my show.
Thanks for having me.